how would you say it's different in the environment? What kind of environments do you create that are favorable toward learning in your classroom? And are they similar that to the because you have how many people work underneath you at the fire department? A handful or so?
Well, we depends if I'm teaching. If I'm teaching, then I'm in a leadership role for all of those folks. When we're on the truck,
Hmm.
whenever we run a medical call, there's four of us on the truck, so there's three people who are taking direction from me. When we run a fire call, captain's running the show, and we're all subordinate to the captain. Ultimately, we're all subordinate to the captain anyway, because they're in charge of the whole scene. So if they see something
Right.
that's unsafe, but the patient is mine, so everything that happens with regard to the patient is under my direction. So three, four people at any given time.
So what kind of environments do you create and in the classroom, and then with regard to teaching and learning as it relates to leadership, and then in comparison to how you see that differ, if at all, in the fire department and as a firefighter and paramedic?
Well, typically people that work in my industry are type A personalities. So even when they're wrong, they're right. They just don't tell you that they're right. You know, nobody does it better than me, but if you want to believe that you do, that's okay with me, and we'll just avoid the argument.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'll nod right now. And that's how we get. You have to have a great deal of self confidence to do what I do. I think. And be able to sleep at night. You can't go to bed at night questioning every decision you've made. Um, it just won't work for you. But part of that comes out of the amount of training that you do and the education and living those calls before you run them, so that when you go, you did everything you could do. You know that everything happened the way that it was supposed to happen, and you can feel good about that. But having those types of personalities means that we don't have the type of conversation that we had when we were in school together, which was we could honor somebody's belief but disagree with it. In the fire service, it's no, you're wrong. You're wrong, I'm right. And we know what kind of environment that creates. If I'm right, I'm better. I'm higher on that hierarchical scale because I'm right. You're wrong, you're down here. It's oppressive to a degree, but that's the environment in the fire station. Now I try to learn from that. And when I go into my uh, classroom, I want to ask questions that prompt thought. I think of all the philosophers, my favorite was Socrates. And part of the reason was because of the Socratic method. Socrates asks questions and allows you to come around to your truth as you try to answer the questions. And I try to create environments where we're not, it's okay to disagree. It's very difficult in an undergrad class to have somebody at that point where they can disagree without taking it personally. And I think that's where we're moving towards. We're trying to grow that. When I have a class that is very comfortable with that, it's the conversation is amazing because we can disagree and we can share many points of view, and nobody feels like somebody else challenged them or stepped on them or took advantage of them. And nobody used those buzz phrases like right, wrong, yeah, better, worse, that set people off. And we're able to honor each other's opinions. Sylvia Barron uh, used to say it very good, to be able to speak your truth in love,
Yes.
which to me means, I'm not going to, I'm not telling you you're wrong. I'm telling you what I think or what I feel or what I've learned and how I perceived it and how it's my truth. Oftentimes we will tell people, no, that's not opinion, that's fact. And it's like, yeah, but it's fact, but it's watered through your perspective and your worldview. So how much of that fact is really fact? We can have a city, we can have the Supreme Court. We're dealing with the Supreme Court stuff right now, so we can talk about that a little bit. The Supreme Court are people who are put together to make a decision based off of rule of law. Is this constitutional or is it not? How can 9 people look at this and not come down with the same idea? Reading a bill or a judgment that has been made and deciding whether it was constitutional or not. How can they have different opinions on that? Well, perspective leads them to filter it through different things, through their epistemology and their ontology. What is comfortable for them, and what is their thought process. We went through it when we were going through quantitative methodology, and we realized how difficult it was for all of us qualitative people to sit in the same room. These are people we might have the same opinions on sports teams with. We might like the same beers. We might enjoy the same types of food, but our minds are wired to work a little bit different. And whereas I would struggle with quantitative methodology and they would breeze through it, when it became qualitative, we're sitting here going, well, here's how you do this, and then they're saying, I don't understand this, it doesn't make sense, there's too much gray here for me. So I think by trying to allow people to have their opinions and allow it to be a safe environment where they're not beating each other up over this stuff. I think a certain amount of arguing is good, but it's very difficult to get it to a space where it doesn't seem challenging, where it doesn't seem like it's being oppressive or marginalizing. It can devolve awfully quickly. I think David Whitfield was probably one of the best people at navigating those waters in his classroom and doing social justice classes. It's very, very important because you can't have more polarizing issues than that.
Right.
But his thought was, we don't use words like right or wrong. We use agree and disagree and honor somebody's belief. And then there's got to be a certain level of comfort in, I can disagree with you. And it doesn't mean that I'm putting you down, but by the same token, I can allow you to have your own opinion, and it doesn't mean that I have to adopt it. It doesn't mean that it has to become my opinion. It just means I'm honoring your right to think what you want to think. And that's kind of a difficult conversation too, because if we're very big on black and white, if you're not with me, you're against me.
Right.
So I think being upfront with that, and then allowing the students to challenge me on ideas. I'll tell my students, this was another David Whitfield thing, is I'm not telling you to close your laptops or put your phones down. Open them up. And if you hear me say something that doesn't resonate with you properly, look it up. See if what I'm saying is actually true. And if it's not, challenge me on it, because I don't want to be giving you bad information. But I'm also confident enough that the things I'm telling you in the room are going to hold up to scrutiny, that I'm willing to allow you to access that stuff.